Welcome to the DrumChats podcast, where we're talking anything and everything to do with drums. Today's topic, dampening. Here are your hosts, Travis Davis and Dave Douglas.
Hey everybody, welcome to the DrumChats podcast. This is episode 9, and we're talking about dampening and muffling systems for all of your drums. I am hanging out here with my buddy Travis. What's happening with you, Travis?
Not a whole lot. I can't believe we're almost to double-digit episodes.
I know we were talking about that when we were planning this episode a little bit. We're just like, ooh, 9, coming up on that double digit, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. It's gone by super fast, and even doing these 2 episodes a month, I just feel like it's only been a month maybe. That's how it feels. So
yeah, it doesn't feel like it's been very long. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, 9 episodes is really not that many, but it's just kind of happened, you know, it feels like it's happened pretty quick. So yeah, it's a little bit of a big deal to get to that 2-digit number.
Yeah.
And it's going to be quite some time until we get to 3 digits. So we'll celebrate this one, you know?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. The big 1-0.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's been going on with you? Anything new?
Not a whole lot new. We do have something new for DrumChats though.
Oh.
And speaking of episode 10 being a big deal, I'll get to that in a second. Some of you have already seen on our Instagram that we're hosting a contest because as of October 27th, DrumChats is 1 year old.
Whoa.
And celebrating a birthday. And so instead of us receiving presents, we are giving one of you a present, and you can go to our Instagram and see we're doing a giveaway, and there's a contest rules and how you can enter to win. We're giving away a t-shirt, a coffee mug, some stickers. We're giving away a pair of Garrett Goodwin's signature sticks from ProMark, and a couple other social media posts.
For people who don't know, who does Garrett Goodwin play for?
Garrett is Carrie Underwood's drummer.
Aha.
And he was actually the first artist that DrumChats has ever worked with. He's a good friend. And
friend of the show.
Friend of the show, friend of the chat. And we had him do a clinic down in Austin a year ago. And so in memory of that, he donated a pair of his sticks so one of you could own them. And so, yeah, we're doing a contest. You can go online on our social media and our website and see the rules and how to enter to win that. And then on November 15th, in a couple weeks, when on our episode 10, we'll announce the winner. And so
perfect.
You need to go on and do all those things now, and then tune back into this next episode to see if you are the lucky one. So
that's awesome.
That's the newest thing that's new.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe we can come back around to it in the middle, and you can lay out some of the details. I know you said the rules are all on Instagram, is it, or are they everywhere?
They should be everywhere, but
okay.
Instagram.
Okay.
First thing I thought of.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe we can. You can talk about those details a little bit more, and actually, maybe in the middle, you can. Or right now, why don't you talk about the difference between like what we're doing here with the podcast and what DrumChats as a whole is, because they're very closely connected, but we haven't been doing the podcast for a year, but DrumChats itself is a year old. So maybe you just talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So the podcast we started in June, but the DrumChats started last October. Like I said, Garrett Goodwin is a friend of mine for the past couple of years, and I wanted to do a clinic with some of the drummers that I was coaching at a church back in Austin, and I knew Garrett, and I called him and I was like, hey, what would it take to get you down here and host a clinic and stuff? And we worked some things out, and I was like, man, this needs a name. Like we could make this into something. And at the time it was called Drumtacs, and unfortunately for legal reasons that's already been taken. But so originally DrumChats was surrounded around the idea of doing video interviews on YouTube and interviewing, Garrett Goodwin, Rich Redmond, Matt Greiner, even non-drummers like Matt Noveski and Travis Kennedy. And then Dave was actually one of the guys that I reached out to do an interview for that and build the YouTube channel, because Dave is an incredible drummer. And
thanks.
and then he and I started talking about just how we really dove into gear and felt like we didn't have enough time. And so because of me doing an interview with Dave, I had the idea of doing just a podcast, and I thought, Dave seems to know his stuff. I'm going to see if he wants to do one with me. And
yeah, I mean, I pretend to know my stuff, you know? I mean, I have a lot of experience, and I mean, I guess I sort of know my stuff, but you know, like anyone, there's like a million things out there, products and techniques and everything else. So a lot of times I feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about, but yeah, I've got a little bit of experience, so, and I can talk a little bit, so, you know.
Well, you made the comment at the end of the video, or at the end of the interview, you're like, I don't really get to talk like this with anyone ever. And so I was like, dude, Dave would be perfect. And so a couple months later, that's how the podcast started. So now they're kind of separate, but they're still the same. And the podcast is just another leg of DrumChats as a whole.
Right.
So DrumChats for the past year has just been a combination of this podcast now, including interviewing artists and drummers and engineers, and just doing the whole online social media kind of thing, just to get everybody who's interested in drums just to see a bunch of stuff and learn a bunch of different things, and however that comes out. So
and that's been that's a kind of a huge goal of both of ours, is just to kind of interact with people, to learn, to be able to talk about this stuff and discuss it, and kind of get our ideas out there and hear each other's ideas and other people's too. So certainly that's a goal of the contest as well, is just to get people plugged in to DrumChats and to be part of the conversation. You know, we always want people to be commenting and like posting things, tag us or whatever. We definitely want to interact with people. That's it's a huge goal of what we're doing here. So so please get involved and follow DrumChats on all the social media channels, and comment and share our episodes, and whatever, critique them, whatever. We love that stuff. So
for sure,
get involved. And while you're doing it, just do all the contest things so you can win items. I got to tell you, I'm kind of excited about that mug. I actually want the mug.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is the mug you can't buy. So if you win, you're only getting like one of three. I have one
of three.
Well, I need to get you. I need to get you one, man. So it can be
why don't I have a mug? This is ridiculous.
Well, originally I had them made for the video interviews. Like,
oh yeah.
Like with you, it was over Skype, and with a couple other guys, it was a Skype interview. But there are a couple drummers you can go see the interviews that are actually in person with those guys. And Jeremy Furstenfeld, who I'm pretty sure is listening to this right now, Jeremy plays drums for the band Blue October. I had two of these made for the on-camera, plug kind of thing. Yeah. And I showed up at Blue October studio, and I hand him that, and I was like, "Hey, let's have some coffee and whatever. Here you go."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, is this for me?" And I was like,
"Well, were you like, yeah,
I kind of need it back." And he's like, "I'm just messing with you. It's all good." And I felt really bad for even having to turn him down. And at the end of the interview, I was like, "You know what? Keep it." And so I have one. Dave, you'll have one. Jeremy has one, and then whoever wins this contest will have one. So
wait, I thought there was only 3 of them. You're gonna make another one?
I'll have to get a 4th one for you.
Well, no, we can deal with that at some point, whatever. But I'm just hanging out right here. I've got a Motown mug I'm drinking out of right now, which is pretty good, that I got at the Motown Museum in Detroit.
Nice, that's cool.
It's really awesome, actually. If anyone is in the Detroit area, or that's within a few hours drive, you should definitely go up there, make a day trip of it, and go to the Motown Museum. It's pretty cool, for sure. And buy a mug. Right on. Yeah. Mug and Motown mug. Mm-hmm. But all that being said, some of the stuff you win, you can buy, but some of it you'll be the only one who has it. And so, I know people like rare stuff, especially. Hey, we all love rare stuff. Rare stuff. Yeah. So anyway, go online, enter to win, and maybe you will receive a package on your door. Love it. That's awesome. Well, let's get into this thing. We have we want to talk about drum dampening and muffling systems. It's very official. But I guess the first thing that kind of comes to mind that we want to hit is dampening as far as tone control and like what some of those products are and some of our experiences with them. I use Moon gels like a ton.
Like a ton of Moon gels on each drum?
No, I use Moon gels a lot. I often use Moon gels. How do I say that? So I'm a huge fan of Moon gels, and you'll find them on most of my drums, not on the kick drum, but you'll always find them at least one or two, like one. I mean, it depends on the drum. It kind of just depends on the day, what the room is. It depends on the head. It depends on the song. It just depends on a lot of things. But there's usually going to be a Moon gel on every one of my toms and my snare. And sometimes two, sometimes I cut them in half and put them in different places, whatnot. But I really, really like them because you can really tailor the overtones, and you can you can just control things a little bit more and get the sound to kind of rein it in a little bit. Some of the top end kind of out of control overtones, I find it really, really is helpful for that, for sure. And you've talked about Drumtacs a bunch. It's a similar thing, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you use?
I like Drumtacs. Yeah. And I like Moon gels. I have Moon gels here at my house, but Drumtacs for me, actually the first pack I got was a year ago from Garrett when he came in for the clinic, and I had heard of them, had no idea how they worked, and it's basically the same concept as Moon gels where they're sticky and you just stick them on your head, but one side is sticky and the other side is actually foam, and so it's only sticky on one side, and they're super easy to clean if you get any stick debris or something on them.
That's the thing about Moon gels. They get just really gross. Real gross.
Yeah, and I mean, you can wash Moon gels to an extent, and I have nothing against Moon gels, so if anybody's like a spokesperson for Moon gel, I'm not talking bad about you guys, but Drumtacs, they just did it for me, man. Like usually with Moon gels, I feel like I have to put one or even possibly two on a drum. But Drumtacs, it just takes one, and they're a little circle, and they're super dense, and bear some kind of weight. And I've seen people cut them and stuff, and they're just really user friendly, man. Like I really like them.
Maybe I should check them out because I've never used them before, and it seems like a little bit more of a thought out product than Moon gels, because the Moon gels are just like, it's just a little square of sticky stuff. It's like, when you're a little kid and you get the toy that's like an octopus and you throw it against the wall and
like
it slowly just and it just kind of walks down the wall or whatever. It's almost like that, but a square, and you just stick it on your drum, and it really works. But it's sticky all around, so like your sticks, as they slowly turn to sawdust or just whatever, fuzzies or whatever, it just gets like caught in it and they get gross. And then sometimes I'll pull a drum out of a case that I haven't had out of the case in a while, like some snare that I just don't really use much, and I'll pull it out, and the Moon gel, sometimes I'll leave them on there because I'll just throw it in a case or whatever.
Sure.
I'll pull it out, and the Moon gel will have kind of sort of liquefied, and it's like, it's kind of spreading itself out like a little pancake. And then you try to get it and like to pull it off, and it's really just like goo. And it gets really gross. They just get really messy. So I really do need to check out these Drumtacs because
you should, dude. I like them.
Yeah, they seem like it's just more thought out, and it's like someone who used Moon gels and they're like, this is horrible. I can make a better version of this,
Yeah.
So yeah, I should definitely check out the Drumtacs. What else we got?
The old school, I say old school, they're still going around. The Remo and Evans O-rings. That just like
the
fit
O-rings.
around the outside of your head.
Yeah, that just reminds me of being a little kid.
Yeah.
I just feel
there
like because when you're a little kid and you have no clue how to tune drums, and they just sound like garbage. You know how like you're like try to tune you don't know how to tune drums here. That's the first part of the equation, and you realize that your drums sound real bad. They sound like cardboard boxes, you know?
Yeah, that's a good description.
Yeah, they sound like cardboard boxes, and then someone is like, dude, you should get these O-rings, and you put them on there, and it weirdly helps like quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just like it kills them. It really is like, it doesn't really, to my ear, I feel like it doesn't help the tone, but it will fix something from sounding like a cardboard box.
Yes. Or something from sounding like a basketball, like the like just the overtone ring that extends out sometimes, like because it just sits over the bearing edge, it can just really quickly kill that. So you can just get kind of a muffled, just a muffled note, which
right.
Some people like, but if your drums
I mean, it's
are
okay for certain kinds of music or whatever.
Yeah.
Something that's a little bit more like you want it to sound kind of dead and to kind of lose like that life, the bright top endy stuff of it, you know, because you definitely lose a lot of that. Yeah. And you can load it up, and it's almost like it's like putting a super pinstripe on your drum. You know, it kind of starts to give you a little bit of like that 70s, 80s sound, right?
Yeah. Just
kind of.
Just
that's what happens in my mind.
Thumpy toms.
Yeah.
Is what I can think of.
Right. And then, so I haven't actually used those things since I was like pretty young, like a little kid.
Well, and I think that not to jump ahead, but even in the tonal change, I feel like the big fat snare drum is like is like those O-rings that have gone through evolution, and it's just changed because now
it's like a different thing though, because the big fat snare drum is cool.
Yes, it is.
It's like,
I love mine. It's cool.
Real cool. I don't have one. I've used one before, and it's really awesome. But it's essentially just that O-ring, but it's like the size of an entire head. It's like it fits over the entire head.
Yeah. Well, I saw a picture of the original design, and that's literally what it was the guy just took a drum head and cut the rim off, and then figured out that if you just put a drum head over a drum head, the top one's just going to get beat up really quickly. Yeah. And then he learned that he had to change the material that it was made out of, and then he cut the middle hole out, and so it started out from being just a drum head that he cut up, basically.
Right. And well, what is the? Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I should look it up right now. What does it look like now? Because the one I used, it really was just like a flat single, 14-inch disc.
He's got a couple different ones.
There's different kinds, huh?
The one that you're talking about where it's just a disc.
Yeah.
There's one I think it's called a donut. That's the one that I have where the middle's cut out.
The middle is cut out?
They have some now with like
dude, I'm looking at this right now, and oh wow, there's a bunch of different kinds. I didn't even know that.
Some with tambourine jingles. I think they have some for cymbals now that look like a little tie, like a necktie.
Oh. Just to kill the cymbal?
Well, really, I think to add the jingle without killing so much of the cymbal.
Jingle? Are you talking about
like a tambourine thing?
Oh, the tambourine looking one. That's really weird.
I've never tried that one, but
dude, I really want to try that one for snare. I bet that's awesome. Like so often when I'm producing a song, I'll throw tambourine in, and it's just doing whatever the snare is doing. So this would just be that.
Yeah, pretty much.
It eliminates one percussion track.
Yeah.
And whatever you can do to help. I mean, a lot of times the snare and the tambourine are doing different things, but this would be a really cool sound. I'm pretty into this idea. It's only $10. Is this what I'm seeing right now?
I think there's some they range, but I think one of the basic ones is $10.
Whoa, that's crazy. Yeah. So the versions with the center cut out, though it's like a donut, is it just more or less dampening, or does it serve some other purpose?
I think it's less dampening, even though it's pretty dampening. Like, that's why we put it under tonal change, because it really, a lot of people abuse it, and they abuse it well, I guess. But it totally changes the sound of your snare. Like,
Yeah, it's not just controlling.
No,
it's like creating a different tone. It's like put a different snare drum.
Yeah, you can have a snare drum that's really high and poppy, and as soon as you throw that thing on there, now your snare drum sounds fat and low and thuddy, and it sounds good, but it totally changes the sound.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I think it's a little less as much dampening as the full circle. Mm-hmm. Because the full circle, you'd be hitting the product itself on top of your head. This way, you're actually hitting your head that's just severely smothered.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it kind of makes me think about the ways that we've kind of achieved those sounds without this product. So maybe we could talk about that real quick. It sounded like you were in the middle of a thought. I kind of cut you off there.
No, you're good.
But I was thinking about how I also before have used a drum head, just another drum head, and you just flip it upside down and put it on your drum. So you're playing the bottom of that head, and it does the same thing as the big fat snare drum that's just, that's covering the entire head.
Right.
So I've done that before, and it really does the same thing. It's not designed for that, but if you don't have a big fat snare drum and you have an extra head that's the same size as your snare drum, just pull that thing out and flip it over. And I mean, sure, you're going to beat it up a little bit or whatever, but it does the same thing, and it works great, and it'll kind of give you an idea what the big fat snare drum does, and if that's something you might be interested in getting at some point anyway. And then the other thing where you were saying with the donut, you're not actually hitting the product, because you're still hitting the middle of the drum, and the big fat snare drum, it's like the O-rings, but it's really, really wide. Yeah, so it still covers a large portion of the drum, but the center dot is open, and that's where you're hitting. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of like when you put your wallet on your snare drum or something like that. Have you ever done that before?
I have a couple times. Yeah,
it kind of makes me think of that, because it adds all that weight, and it's just like a big chunk of leather or whatever that's going to dampen the snare drum. And does it achieve that similar kind of sound where it's got that weight and dampening, but you're not actually hitting the product?
Yes. And to add, not only is it covering more surface area because of how wide it is, but the outer rim, it has a rubber ring, about as wide as those Remo O-rings, and that adds extra weight to hold it down. And so that's sitting on top of your bearing edge. It's adding weight on top of the bearing edge to kill the overtones. But to even think about like what a drum head looks like if you slowed everything down really fast. Mike Mangini did, he was on a TV show, and they like video things in slow motion and see what it looks like on the aftermath.
Oh, and weird. That's a TV show?
Yeah, I think it was like Time Stoppers or something. I can't remember, but
is that one of those TV shows that there's like 4 or 6 episodes and then it's just gone?
Well, it was around for a while. I don't think that they're on air anymore, but I think it was like a year or two maybe. But they showed him hit his snare drum, and real time, like as high as they are, it just looks like you're just smacking the head and it's not doing anything. But when they slowed it down to, I forget how many frames per second, it looked like water, like just super wavy, and go out and then come back in. So your head, there's so much movement that you can't really see with your naked eye.
Wow.
But seeing that in slow motion, and you throw this big fat snare drum, it keeps those ripples from going back and forth. So it's literally smothering your head's vibrations, which is why it makes it so fat and kills the tone as wide as it is. Yeah, that's the end of that thought.
That's the end of that thought. That's a good wrap up, and that's the end of that thought.
But yeah,
it's really crazy. If you guys haven't tried one of these things before, you definitely should, or at least grab it like another head, like I mentioned, and throw it on there upside down so it sits flat. It's pretty amazing how different it sounds, and you'll throw it on there and be like, oh, I kind of recognize that sound, like I've heard it before,
Right.
And it'll kind of inspire you to do different things and to play differently, and that's one of the things that I love so much about some of this type of product is you can like really, really quickly change the tone of your drums, and it really inspires you to play differently. Yeah. That's one of the things that's really cool about sitting down in a drum kit, a different drum kit than your own. And it's set up differently. So physically it feels different, and it kind of causes you to process things differently and how you play just because of where things are located. Right. And then also the way drums are tuned, and maybe the sizes of cymbals or whatever. It's just one more thing added into the equation that's forcing you to kind of think about drumming differently, or it just causes you to, without even the thought process going on, you just automatically do things differently. And that's one of the cool things about products like this. It just changes things so much, and it can kind of just open up some new possibilities for you. So that's one of the things that I really love about it, because it's like you can throw $20 at it and all of a sudden it feels like you own a different snare.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. And when I first heard about it, I thought it was just another gimmicky product, because some people were like, "Oh, do you use the big fat snare drum? Do you use the big fat snare drum?" And I'm like, "No, and I'm not going to."
Right.
And then I ate those words and I bought one. And I don't always use it. It's definitely like a time and a place for it, but I always take it with me, because you're basically bringing another snare drum. It's just a lot smaller and a lot lighter. Yeah.
It's so easy to take. Like, you can just transport it on the head of your snare drum.
Yep, that's how I do it.
In the case or whatever, and then you just take it off. Like,
yeah,
it's like taking a piece of paper off of a table. It's like that easy, you know.
Yeah.
So you can put it on or take it off, like whatever, with a thought. So yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And then the Snare Weight is kind of a similar type of situation. Maybe that's a little bit more like the wallet on the snare drum, right? Do you own a Snare Weight?
I don't. I thought about buying one just to try it.
Yeah, I don't own one.
I've never used one either. I've never used one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've used one, and actually, I think I mentioned Chad Butler before from Switchfoot.
Yeah.
We've played a bazillion shows with Switchfoot, so I have a lot of experience watching Chad play. But I've seen Chad use them before.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
And I don't know if he always does, or if he just did it on the last tour that we were on together. But he used one, and I'm sure there's different companies that make them, right? There's probably a ton of different versions.
Different variations, yeah.
I don't know. Is it all centered around like one company, or are there a few competing companies?
I think there's competing. It's kind of like the Moon Gel Drumtac thing. Snare Weight, I think there is a Snare wallet where it's like just the weight and the mass of a wallet, and you just flip it on your head.
Is that the one that's like, it's like a block?
I think so. Yeah. I've never seen one in person, but I saw a video of one being used.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. I wondered what Chad used, because I'm a big Switchfoot fan, and I've always liked watching Chad play, and he always has a super just chunky fat snare drum, always.
Yeah, and it works really well with his style, because his style, it's very like kind of straight ahead, a little not quite minimalistic, I wouldn't say, but it's very like straightforward, very musical, just like kind of what's called for, you know.
Cool.
It's rarely flashy or anything. It's just like big, solid, keep the beat, you know, kind of open, not too busy. But yeah, having that kind of big, powerful snare drum in that type of situation, it's kind of what you need. You know, if you're playing a lot of like really fast stuff or intricate or whatever like that, it might not be quite what you want.
Right.
But yeah, it works really well for Switchfoot stuff, you know.
Yeah.
There's this like magnet one I'm looking at right now. Do you know about this Snare Weight magnetic dampening?
No.
I don't know, man. It just looks like a big block. It like it grabs onto your rim somehow. But then there's a few other versions here too that I'm looking at. And I think it's the same company. There's this product called M80. I don't even know, man. We should look into these things a little bit more. It looks like there's a bunch of different versions of this kind of thing, and different materials as well. I'm looking at one here that maybe is like leather or something, some sort of fabric.
I know the snare. I think the original Snare Weight is like leather strips, and they have. The Snare Weight M80. That's the one that I've seen, where it just kind of clips onto the hoop or something. Just a leather strip, and I think you can. I think you can connect them to more, which is what those dots on the end are, unless they're just weights. But
you can connect multiples together.
I think so, and I know you can fold it up too, where like. There's that little metal piece in the middle. It's a magnet, and you just like fold the ends in, and you can just take away some of the dampening or something.
So you can like roll it up and it stays because they're magnets on it. That's a pretty good idea, actually. Wow,
I think so.
That's really cool. Yeah, there's this version called M1 that looks like it's that fabric, and then this M80 is a larger version of it, but maybe also I guess serving the same purpose. It's just a larger version of it, I think. And then I don't know what this like metal weight is. I don't know how this thing works, but that's this kind of thing that Chad Butler was using.
Oh, okay.
The chunk of metal. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. We'll have to take a look at that.
Cool.
And if anyone knows what that is or anyone uses one, definitely chime in because we don't know this stuff.
Yes. I feel like a lot. I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of the people who do listen to this, or even some of the forums I'm on, I feel like a lot of the drummers that I see on there own stuff like this, like where they just go buy all these different products, whether they're trendy and gimmicky or not. I feel like there are a lot of at-home drummers who try this stuff out and have a lot of knowledge and first-hand knowledge on it. So like Dave said, if you're listening and you know about the Snare Weight and really know about it and feel like
or if you just like love it,
let us know.
If you love it or if you hate it or whatever. I think this is the same company. This is literally a company. It's called Drum Weight, right? And they have the M1, they've got the M80, and then it is the same company. It's brass, Snare Weight Pro Lock brass, and it also is Snare Weight Chrome Pro Lock.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So, but I think that's a little bit like the wallet thing, or I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. There's a lot of different ways to do this. But we'll have to check that thing out at some point. But yeah, hit us up though if you know anything about it. Of course, we didn't talk about just throwing gaff tape on your drum.
Yeah. Good old gaff tape.
That's the classic trick, right? You'd see that in like pictures from the studio. Yeah, exactly. Tissues, or like I've used like rags on a couple recordings where I wanted people's drums to be really, really dead. And I actually just took like work rags from like my garage and then just like gaff taped work rags, in various amounts of work rags to their drums. Yeah. And it looks absurd. It looks crazy, right? But you always see photos, like old photos from the studio, especially in the 70s and 80s when really having dampened dead drums was really popular. Everyone did that,
Right.
But that's really cool to be able to do too. And of course, tape you can just put on and off or whatever. Gaff tape is expensive though, So
it is, man.
Yeah,
it can be.
Gaff tape, it's really
super usable whenever you're recording. And two, you talk about it looking ridiculous. It's like, well, when you're recording, a lot of times you wind up putting a blanket over your kick drum, and that looks ridiculous. So.
Yeah, I always tuck my kick drum in, make it nice and tidy. I always talk about putting it to bed. I actually the thing I like to do a lot of times is take another kick drum and put it in front of my kick drum, and I'll do that. I call it the Thunder Tunnel.
Nice.
And so a lot of times I'll have like an inside mic in my kick drum, and it might be like way inside, and then or it could be just like in line with the resonant head, just kind of sticking inside of it, depending exactly what I'm doing. And then sometimes instead of just putting an outside kick mic on that resonant head, I'll put that other kick drum in front of the active kick drum, so that the energy coming out of the kick drum on the kit will actually activate the next kick drum. And I won't have a batter head on that one. It'll just be like a tunnel, but there'll still be a resonant head there, and I'll mic that resonant head.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really sometimes it can be really cool. And then I'll put the entire thing under blankets, And then, so you've got the Thunder Tunnel under blankets. So, it's always...
Thunder Tunnel.
The Thunder Tunnel.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of things you can do with that for sure. But when you're recording, things look a little bit ridiculous anyway. So,
but as long as it sounds good,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And then you can have like stories about it. You can when you post photos of how crazy your drum setup looks, and people are just like, "What are you guys doing?" And then you've got all these like, fun stories about the studio. How you got this sound? How you got that sound? And whatever, it's really interesting being in that situation when the way something sounds and the way it's mic'd is so critical,
right?
It's as opposed to like a live show where you just throw a mic on it and it's like things get lost in the mix a little bit. You can kind of get away with some things live that you don't want to get away with on a recording. So so it's okay. It's okay. We can make our drums look a little bit ridiculous.
Yes.
And throw gaff tape and rags and all kinds of things over them. So those are all options.
For sure. Well, even with the Gaff Tape too, I was in a studio the other day here in Nashville, and a drummer had, rather than taping directly to the head and putting pressure on the head, he had Gaff Tape going like at the top of his snare drum. It was on his hoop, and he just had it from one side of the hoop hovering over the head onto the other side, and on that strip he had a folded piece of Gaff Tape that just kind of lightly draped over the head. So every time he would hit the snare, that flap would go up and then back down, and it would open up and allow for the tone, and then immediately smother the overtone as it came back down.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, just 2 strips of Gaff Tape, and that's how he killed his overtone, which is it looked ridiculous, but it sounded good.
But it's like really minimal. What they needed. It's
very
like
minimal.
Just taking the edge off.
Yeah.
And allowing the tone to all be completely present as he hits it, like that first initial hit, and then close it down.
Exactly.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we should take a little moment break here.
Yep, that's where I was going.
And see if we can hear any tips that I might have.
Cool.
I think it's tip time for me.
It's tip time. Let's go listen to Dave's tip time. That sounds really weird.
Tip time.
Tip time.
Hey everybody, Dave here. I got a pretty good tip of the day. This one's called Check Drums Like You Play Drums. And that's exactly what it's all about. There is no point in spending like 10 minutes checking the drums with the front of house guy just to get up there when your show comes and play them like wildly different, So you really are going to be doing everyone a favor, and the sound guy is not going to be ticked off at you if you actually check the drums like you're gonna play the drums. So of course that includes the volume that you're gonna play at. Go ahead and lay into them if that's what you're gonna do during your show. It's kind of the loudest thing that really often matters in a sound check, because you don't want everything to be in the red and peaking. And then also, as you get deeper into your sound check, after you've gone through each drum individually, which the sound guy will probably ask you to do, then you can kind of break into a really simple beat. I think this can be really helpful from my experience, both as a drummer and as a guy running front of house. Playing a simple beat can kind of give you a little bit more of a context of the whole kit, and can give everyone more of an idea what's going on. And you can even add some toms into the beat. Just play something really simple and really straightforward. Don't hit a lot of crashes, and just do some toms every once in a while. But really, let's just concentrate on a very simple kick, snare, hat beat. And then add some more toms, especially if the sound guy is yelling at you to add more toms, because he needs to hear those. That's it though. Really, just make sure you check like you're gonna play. That's the point. Okay, that's it. Bye.
Dave, that was an awesome tip. We're back.
Thanks.
Yeah, we just got done talking about tonal control, tonal change. And I feel like even that, like with every other topic, we said this almost every episode, that we're just barely scratching the surface because of how many products there are. Like even in us talking about these products, we came across similar products that I didn't even know existed. And I'm sure there's hundreds more out there. And again, if you guys know about products that we didn't list, or even the ones that we did, and we didn't touch on a certain detail about them, hit us up and let us know. And also too, like if you're on Facebook or Instagram, post a picture of it with hashtag DrumChats, and so we can see it and see, like not only hear what you're saying, but see exactly how you're using and what you're using.
Yeah.
So tonal control and tonal change. And now kick drum dampening is way different than snare drum and toms.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you don't put moon gels on your kick drum, and I wonder what that would do, but I feel like I just can't imagine moon gels on a kick drum doing much, because normally you're doing kick drums you're usually like a pillow or blankets inside. When you're recording, like we said, you do blankets outside and stuff, and even some drum heads have muffling incorporated in them, whether it's like felt, or even like the what is it? The Power Stroke like, Pro and the EMAD, they have like the foam rings that go on there.
Right.
What's your experience with kick drums, man?
Yeah, with kick drums, the only time I can think of doing muffling or dampening similar to, as you would with toms is in a kind of like a jazz type of a situation.
Oh yeah.
So sort of like a throwback or jazzy kind of situation. You might have, both batter and resonant heads with maybe no kick drum port on the resonant head, and maybe nothing inside of the kick drum, which is cool in certain situations, and it's definitely like more of a note as opposed to like the power and like the oomph, the chestiness of a kick drum, is more of a note, more of a tone, and that can be really appropriate for those kind of things. And often it's tuned up a little bit higher, although not necessarily the case. You might just end up with the tone. We tend to lose a lot of that, when we dampen the kick drum, because we just want the punch, But yeah, huge fan of a fair amount of dampening in the kick drum. I will not play a kick drum without a pillow or a blanket inside of it. There's a horrible mid-range that happens in a kick drum without anything in it. It absolutely sounds horrendous to me for most music. So yeah, I always throw something in there.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm a fan of just using like a Power Stroke 3 or something, not like terribly muffled, like nothing like the EMAD where there's like foam or anything built into the heads, but a little bit of like a tone control ring is what I like to do, and then just have pillow or blanket of some kind inside. I kind of like. I have a DW that has like their DW blanket that or the pillow that kind of straps down. You'd actually strap it down. Inside, it's made. It's the DW kick drum pillow, right? It's just that's what it's for. And that works really good. It soaks up a little bit of that weird mid range, and you can extend it so it's touching either or both.
You can extend those.
Well, I mean, you can just it's a pillow,
so you
can kind of like you can kind of move, it's a pillow, and then, but it can be cool just to have like a light blanket in there, maybe like a fleece or something like that, or just a pillow, and you can move that around and kind of have it up against that batter head, or more or less, depending on what you're going for or whatever. But I always put something in there for sure.
Yeah.
I
like, DW has that pillow you're talking about, and they have this it's like a set of pillows where they actually lay down like a strip of Velcro on the inside of your shell.
Yeah.
And it's just the edges, so it leaves the middle of your drum open and just touches the heads. I really want to try that on mine, because right now I just have a regular pillow in it, and my kick drum it's a 26 diameter, but it's 20 inches deep.
That's just outrageous. It's huge.
Well, there's a lot of room, and so even the DW pillow you're talking about is actually too short for mine.
Oh yeah.
And using a pillow is great, but I feel like too, like when your bass drum gets bigger, if you're only going for the look, and I bring this up just because mine's a big bass drum, but if you're only going for the look,
it's all for style.
But I want to make it like I want to use my bass drum, and I kind of want to cut that pillow in half. Like you can even do like rolled up towels and just like run duct tape around the edges and just make it like a tube of towel. But I really want to get to where I can tune it and have minimal dampening inside to where it's still punchy, but I can get the actual depth of the shell. Because I feel like a lot of guys just go, it almost sounds like having an open bass drum is just bad. Usually because it doesn't sound that great in most cases. But I feel like if you have a bass drum at that depth and you're concerned about the diameter, then you should use the shell of like for its diameter and what the diameter does to the sound. So dampening's good, but people can get a little carried away with just smothering your kick drum.
Yeah. It's not about like completely killing it. You don't want to choke any drum.
Right.
And yeah, the kick drum, maybe you want it way more controlled than a lot of the other drums, but you still don't want to choke it. You still want it to have a little bit of life to it. That resonant head can actually kind of sing a little bit, it can have a little bit of tone to it.
That's
we
why
want to
it's
make
there.
sure, we want to make sure we have the punch and the power and like the slap and the thud and the we want all of that.
Yeah.
And that's the main component for the most part when you're talking about pop, rock, anything like that. That's more, pop or rock oriented. But it's nice to have that little bit of tone to still work with, especially as to have the versatility for more mid-tempo songs or slower songs. And a lot of that kick drum tone does come from, like, if you're miking a kick drum, a lot of it comes from that outside mic, And so you don't want to just completely choke the thing,
right?
For sure.
Have you ever seen when I played at Shoreline Church in Austin? They had the Aaron Gillespie signature Truth Kit, and it's a 2418 kick drum, and whoever they bought it from lined the inside with foam. Like the entire shell, and
weird.
Like the depth and all the way around the diameter on the inside is just like 3-inch foam, and then there's nothing else. And
how does that sound?
I mean, it sounded okay. Wasn't the greatest sounding kick drum because of it, because it did choke a little too much.
Did they like glue it in?
Yeah.
Are you serious? It was glued in?
Yeah, and that really takes away. It does one thing. Like if you want to just have a thumpy kick drum, that's what it's going to do, because it just takes away the integrity of the shell, which, if that's what you're looking for, that's what it'll do. But that shell, you don't really get to hear the shell. You just hear what's not there whenever they mic it. And being live too, like, I don't know, it can be by wherever you're at or what the venue is, but I always felt like having the entire inside just coated in that foam sheet just really took away from that kick drum. That was the first time I'd ever seen that done.
Well, I've never seen that done. That's probably maybe that's the only time that's ever been done.
Maybe.
I'm sure that's not true, but that should be the only time it's ever been done. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That should never happen.
Yeah.
That's like I bought a drum set. I shouldn't say my parents bought me a drum set when I was really young.
Nice.
And it was covered, the entire drum set was covered in contact paper. Like they took all the hardware off and everything, covered the entire drum set, because it was like 2 drum sets put together.
Okay.
And so to make them the same drum set, they just took all the hardware off everything, covered the entire drums
shell
with contact paper, like you're lining shelves or something, and then put all the hardware back on, and then you've got this, a drum set, right?
Got a contact paper drum set.
Yeah, I mean, I spent like weeks and weeks taking it off and.
Gosh, did they glue? Did they like glue them down? Like,
well,
wrap?
It's contact paper, so it's like a sticker, right? So it's
just
gotcha.
Yeah,
so it's just like gooey stuff everywhere. You're like just like pouring Goo Gone all over your drums and whatever, just trying to get it all off. But, as a kid, I had nothing to do. It was fun. Yeah. You know how that is.
Have you seen this new product? I don't know how long they've been out, but it can't be more than a couple months. Drum cubes. Have you seen those?
No.
You ever been to like a trampoline park or like a BMX park where they have like a foam pit?
I have not, but I know what you're talking about.
It's basically those. They're like little 3-inch cubes.
Wait, do you put them in your drum?
Put them in your kick drum. Yep.
So someone literally just took foam and just cut them into cubes and said that this is what they're for.
Yep. That's a product now.
And they're making money on this?
They're making money. Why didn't I think of that?
Someone's making money on that.
Yeah, it's a thing.
That's okay.
I have no I have no review or opinion on them, because I've seen one video and I've seen a bunch of pictures, but
I mean, maybe they work.
They're a thing.
I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that just seems weird. So when you're moving your kick drum around, you got to be like really careful to make sure when you're carrying it that you don't have the resonant head down with the hole in it, because you're just gonna be dropping little foam everywhere, right?
Yeah, breadcrumbs of drum cubes as you're walking into.
Yeah,
into the
they're
studio.
like, I guess Dave took his kick drum this way.
It's just a bunch of pieces, just a bunch of squares, and you just kind of dump them in there, which is cool, because I guess like if you think about the volume of how much you want in there, you can take or remove without having to pull everything out.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I guess when you're in the studio, you can be like, hey, I think I need like 3 less drum cubes in my kick drum, and it'll be perfect then.
Go take out 4.
Yeah.
One more. No, put it back.
Yeah, exactly. You know that was just someone who had foam, almost like that kit you were talking about, lining the inside with foam.
Mm-hmm.
This is just someone who had foam, and they're like, well, how do I put this in here? And they just like took some scissors to it, right? And they're just like, oh wait, I can put as many of these cubes in as I want. Mm-hmm. Wait a second, can I make money with this?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. Those ideas are ridiculous.
Think about the big fat snare drum. He's just like, how can I kill the sound? Oh, I'll just take an old drum head and stick it on here, and then change that over time. So I feel like a lot of these products, as simple as they are, are inspiring other people to do their own. And who knows what's going to be next, man?
Well, if it works, I mean, whatever. If it works, it works.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and take. Oh wait, real quick. Ports. Yeah. How much? Yeah, like ports on your resonant head. That changes your tone already. Like.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, the number one thing that I think of when it comes to ports on your resonant head, I typically think of putting a microphone in it. Mm-hmm. But it does certainly change the sound. It's we talked about ports on your snare drum in the shell.
Yeah.
And so it really serves the same kind of purpose. It's a large area that is allowing the air to escape from your kick drum, so there's not resistance in your batter head when you hit it. It's crazy how different it feels when your kick drum, that pedal, it is crazy how different it feels if there is no port. Because I am not used to that at all. I always have one port. I have 2 ports in some of my kick drums.
Right.
But I always have a port. There's always a way for air to escape, and it's incredible the difference with your kick drum, how it feels.
And there's different sizes. Like if you go buy the plastic rings that go around at the different sizes.
Yeah, I like the bigger one.
Use a 6-inch, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And yours is in the middle, right?
It's usually like 4 or 6 inches. Is that right? 4
Typically,
or 6?
there are like the little 2-inch ones, and I think that's more for aesthetics than it is sound. Sure. But 4 and 6 are the most common.
Yeah, I like the bigger one, the 6, because it's enough room. Well, it allows all the air to escape, which I am a big fan of. But it's enough room to get a mic in there and be able to work with it. Yeah. It's really difficult in the small ones. Makes it very, very difficult. So, and especially if you've got a mic like right in line with that resonant head, if your kick drum moves at all, and you've only got that 4-inch port, like you definitely have a mic sitting up against the side of your head. Then it just sounds like garbage. Yeah. So I like the 6-inch a lot. But it's also really amazing when you remove the resonant head, how much more air gets out. Obviously, all of it. Yeah. But it's crazy. I think only one time did I record without a resonant head. Okay. And I was blown away by how different it felt. Yeah. It was just insane how different it felt. And I wasn't a fan of that either. So I guess the in-between, having the large port but still having a head there. Right. Plus, I think it sounds way better to have the resonant head. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you use?
I use a 6-inch port. I put it in the I use that for one just because of how big my kick drum is. I feel like a 4-inch or smaller would just look silly because you want your drum to sound good, but I like them to look good too. But I use the 6-inch port. The pillow that I have is very squishy. It's not like a down pillow or anything, which would be interesting to try. But I can pull that pillow out through the hole without having to take the head off, which is convenient. But even the positioning of the port matters.
Because
definitely. Like I think your your newest kit has it in the middle as well. And a lot of people talk against that because it's usually directly in line with the beater on the other side. And so the most amount of air and sound that's traveling just goes right through the hole. Which there's a level of truth to that. And then a lot of guys will put it off at like a 4 o'clock position or 8 o'clock or wherever, like on the edge. And what that does is actually is when your beater hits the batter head, that sound wave when it goes to the other side, it's not immediately escaping. It's actually vibrating more of the head. So even the positioning of the port matters.
Like the port becomes more of an air vent than it is a sound vent. And I mean, you know, in that situation, or the emphasis, I suppose, is kind of leaning that direction. And I actually do prefer that. 4 o'clock is my favorite position to put it.
Yeah.
The kit that I've had on the road recently, though, it is directly in the middle. And I honestly was just like, I'm just going to try this. I'm just going to do this, you know? Yeah. So on the last Reliant K record, we did this motif with these 3 dots. And so I made the center dot the port.
Genius.
Yeah. And so it just like works perfectly on there. And I just thought, well, heck, I'm just going to put it right in the middle. And it's the blue dot. Right. And it was the one that I felt like I could just put the blue, just make the port, the plastic ring, blue. And because, you know, then it was just like the depth inside the kick drum, I felt like that would, it would still feel like a complete dot more than the red or the yellow one. Yeah. And it worked good, you know.
That's a cool idea. It looks good.
Yeah, it worked pretty good. But, so it is in the middle. It's not my favorite position, but you know, 4 o'clock, that's where it's at.
I like mine in the middle. I had it in the middle on my 22 kick, and then now on my 26. I did have a head on my kick drum where it was in the 4 o'clock position, and I liked it too. And I may go back to that. I've seen guys do 10-inch ports, just massive holes in the middle and off to the side, and that the bigger the port gets, even if it's off to the side, if you have a 24-inch kick drum and a 10-inch port, it's a sound and air vent. It's doing both because it's taking up so much mass of the head. Yeah,
that's a really big vent for sure.
Yeah. So point being, vents can play a part not only in the functionality of miking your kick drum, but also in the sound, because you're cutting a hole in your head. You know, and so, well, let's go ahead and take another break. And we'll come back.
All right, give us a story.
Hey everybody, this is Travis, and I'm going to tell you a little story. So in 2016, I went to a concert with my friend Glenn. We went and saw Blink-182 in Austin, Texas. And I've been a big fan of Travis Barker's work for a long time, since I started playing drums, basically. And I'd always wanted to meet him, always wanted to see them play. And I like Blink-182. I love their music, but I really just wanted to watch Travis play. And Glenn called me. He's like, "Hey, I got 2 tickets. We're going." And we showed up early. We waited in line, and then they opened the doors, and we got in. We were about 10 feet from the stage. And the show's going, Travis comes out, they're playing, they're doing their thing, and they play the song Stay Together for the Kids, which, like every other song, was really cool to watch, and my eyes were just fixated on the drums. Like, I couldn't not watch him play. At the very end of the song, he stands up, and he tosses his stick up in the air. And I can't really explain it, but it felt like everything around me just kind of slowed down, and my eyes locked on that stick, and it was just me and that stick. And it came closer and closer and landed right in front of me, in between Glenn and myself, hit the ground, and as people scurried to try to find it, it's like the world stopped. Went from slowing down to stopping, and I just reached out, grabbed it mid-bounce, grabbed it, and shoved it down the waist of my pants and pulled my shirt over my pants, and it disappeared underneath my clothes. And this guy in front of me and Glenn turns around and he says, "Hey man, could I just see it really quickly?" And before I could even say a word, Glenn steps in front of me and he says, "Back up, dude. Back up." And that's a very true story. I still have the stick. And there's actually a video that I found on YouTube. Somebody at the same show, they had taken the video, and you can see at the very end of the song where Travis stands up and throws it. You can't see that it's me, but you can see me catch it. Or you can see the scurry, and I think I actually held the stick up in the air like I was victorious, and then very quickly shoved it down the waistline of my pants. Now let's get back to the show.
Hey guys, what's up? We are back, and I'm sure that was an incredible story from Travis, so thank you for that, Travis. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything we needed to cover here as far as our kind of overview of dampening and muffling. There's like so many more options out there. So people, please hit us up and comment and tag us on other products maybe that we didn't cover, because there's a bunch more out there that seem pretty interesting. So if you have some experience with one of them, or maybe you're just curious about one of them, definitely tag us with like a picture of it or a link or something like that, so we can check that thing out, and maybe we can circle back around and explore it a little bit together. Hey, I just wanted to just give a quick shout out to Jared Michael Hessler, and I'm not sure if he even listens to this, but he just recently hit me up on Facebook Messenger and just thanked me basically for inspiring him to start playing drums when he was in middle school, which is pretty awesome.
That sounds exactly like mine.
Which is pretty awesome. And he's certainly not in middle school anymore. So I think this has been some time that he's been playing the drums, but he says that playing has been a huge blessing in his life, and he wanted to thank me for doing what I do. Awesome. So, hey, what's going on, Jared? Thanks for that comment. I really appreciate it. And you should, hopefully you're listening to this. Maybe you're not. Maybe I'll go ahead and message you back and say, hey, give you a quick shout out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for that. You got anything, Travis?
Yeah, I had a cool little experience the other day. I was meeting up with Kip Allen, who is Devin Dawson's drummer. If you haven't heard Kip or Devin, he's got a new record out, and he's a really cool country, rock, pop kind of guy. But Kip is also a native to Nashville, and he and I were meeting up at Frothy Monkey, really famous coffee shop here. And we were standing in line, and this guy comes around the corner, around the counter. I guess he worked there. He comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, are you Travis from DrumChats?" And I'm like, "What is where am I right now?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I'm just a fan. I like the podcast." And his name is Josh Gardner, Joshua Luke Gardner, and he's a really cool drummer. I've been following him on Instagram. He does weekly vlogs on YouTube, talking about recording, and I think he just did his first like 3 or 4 day little out of state tour, and really cool drummer and really likes the podcast. So he pulled me and Kip aside, and we talked a little bit and got some coffee. And Josh, thanks for that, man. It was really cool meeting you. And,
awesome.
And so yeah, so shout out to Josh and Jared. So
that's cool, dude.
Thanks for listening, guys, and reaching out. It's cool.
Was that at the 12 South one?
That's the 12 South. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta love being recognized from a podcast. That's kind of interesting, right?
That's definitely the first time anything like that's ever happened. It was almost weird, but then it was really cool. And I was
it's not like it's not like people are looking at us when they're listening, you know? So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Of like 7.4 billion people in the world, I ran into somebody who listens to our podcast that I've never met before.
That one guy.
That one dude. Josh and Jared, you're the only two listening ever.
That's awesome.
Probably.
Love them.
Well, cool.
All right, man. Well, just a quick reminder to sign up for the contest. Hit us up on all our socials, and all the sign up information is out there, listed, and you can walk away with a pair of Garrett Goodwin drumsticks and stickers and a t-shirt, right? T-shirt and the mug.
T-shirt and a mug, and we'll do some social posting as well, and put your face on our website and things like that. And at this point, the contest has been up for a couple days, or the rules have been up for a couple days, and it'll go on for 2 more weeks until November 14th will be the last day that you can do this stuff, and then we'll announce it on our episode on the 15th. But I'll go ahead and just fill you guys in if you haven't been on Instagram yet to see it. The contest rules are you need to go to our Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or wherever and like the post that has the contest rules on it. It's a picture of a white drum head, and it's got them listed. You have to like that post, comment, and tag 3 friends on that post because we want more people to listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It sounds like a lot now that I'm reading this. You need to repost it using the DrumChats hashtag, and then subscribe to our newsletter. As many details as there are there, it's just a few clicks of your mouse or trackpad, whatever you have. But just do those in 5 minutes, and you immediately enter to win this giveaway for the DrumChats anniversary. So again, head over to, I just keep saying Instagram because that's where I posted it, but head over there, do all of those things, and then on our episode 10 on November 15th, we will announce who wins. So if you want to know if you've won, you got to tune into the podcast. That's the only way you're going to know. So
whoa, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Well, thanks for that. Great chatting with you guys. That's it. I think we're good. Until next time. What are we talking about next time? Sticks, right?
We got drumsticks.
We're
giving away a pair of drumsticks, and we're talking about drumsticks.
That's gonna be great. Well, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, until next time, thanks for listening.
Cool. We'll see y'all later.